That's not pointing at me. Is that meant to be pointing at me?
Yeah.
It's not.
It is.
Is it?
Yeah.
It's
got me as well. Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Fair enough.
Look at the beast we got.
Yeah, you see.
Hey?
It's my big head. My sweet. Get this in.
It's the ego.
Call me Swellsy. That's what they used to call me, Swellsy at the gym. Can't believe I've just said that on camera.
Today we've had a really interesting conversation and we've had our first guest on the podcast. So Ben Roberts has joined us from Kofax and he's been giving his insight into the world of disruption. And we've talked about the businesses that we most admire when it comes to disruption. We've talked about how Netflix have changed the entertainment game. We've talked about how do you beat Amazon, who just absolutely dominate that kind of retail market. And we talked about how Lego has turned itself into a leading digital business and how they've done that. On that note, I'll leave you to tomorrow's workplace today.
For the people that don't know you, tell us a little bit about who you are and what business
Who you are and what
for.
you do.
Yeah, exactly. We'll chat away.
My name's Ben. I work for Kofax, which is a leader in capture and automation, essentially. So I've been in the solutions game for nearly 10 years now. I think I've known you for almost 10 years. I know I don't look old enough yet, but still trying. But yeah, being associated to really what traditionally was the kind of print market, I've always been solutions focused and seeing the benefit that solutions can offer individuals and organizations across a broad range of different propositions. And at Kofax, that's what we're trying to do. We're trying to innovate and give people a new way of looking at things, being disruptive in the way that we do things, making people more productive, more efficient, more effective in whatever they're trying to do or achieve. Especially when you look at what we've been through the last 2 years, everybody's made a shift. And we have to get on that wave, right? Because if we don't, we're going to fall by the side. You were mentioning BlackBerry's now perished.
Yeah.
Nokia is a thing of the past. If you don't start innovating and leading, that's where, you'll always
Kofax is obviously a global business, isn't it? It's very, very large and acquisitive. Because your section of the business, am I right in saying, was acquired from Canon? Was that right?
Not Canon. So typically it was the Nuance business. So
that's right. Forgive me, Nuance.
I sit in the print automation team, which focuses on driving automation from the hardware device, which is that kind of shiny thing you see in the corner of the office, which is a necessary evil. You generally need them to do something, but how do you make them almost like a powerhouse? How do you start to bring them into the automation
It's difficult to have a business, isn't it, an office space or even a home office without some sort of print device. Because paper still as a medium to transfer information and move it out. I mean, again, I'm still receiving post, I'm still printing things out and having to scan it back in again in bits and pieces. But you're right, it's like, what else can you get it to do?
Yeah.
And I think sometimes people, they don't know, and it's our job is to educate them on how can we take little steps out of it, make it easy, integrate it with other systems, because people, because of the companies that we've spoken to, people expect technology to be easy, but they also know that if they have been in a job and they're trying to use some clunky ERPs or different systems, they know through ironically the business experience of their lives, which again it takes up majority of most people's working week, if you like, or life. 40 hours a week is a long time. If they're dealing with technology that is clunky and they don't particularly like it, they go home and the irony is they've got the best they've got the best hardware, they've got the best apps on it, that they've got Alexa and stuff at their beck and call, so they've got AI where they can ask certain questions, come to the office and they're notepad and pen and
it's a generational thing though, isn't it?
I think so, yeah.
My generation and up, it's that even though I sell solutions, it's about the I've always done it like this, and so going back to what you were saying, Ben, it's absolutely, you not necessarily got a short amount of time to convince someone, but making that device or the technology within that device appealing that it's going to make their lives easier. You have to kind of be able to do it quite quickly, because it's like, well, I just use it to print things, I use it to copy things or scan things, and it's actually, some of the the software that can reside within a device that can make life so much easier. That would maybe a scanning example that take blank sheets out, can do this, can do that, and make your life so much easier. And people just kind of like look at the and sometimes not at work but at home, I can be guilty of just doing on my TV. It could probably make me a cup of tea, probably, but I wouldn't know how to do it because I'm just
turn the kettles.
Yeah, exactly, those sorts of things. And I think it. But we used kids a lot in this pod.
Yeah.
Probably when they get to our time of life, they're not really going to. Probably by then, they're not really going to probably rely on paper.
Well, if you think about their tech, like they'll have maybe a laptop or an iPad. They'll have a smart device. They'll have some sort of headphones with speakers on, and that's it. Backpack, and they can work from anywhere. Do you know what I mean? They can do their own podcast. Yeah. They can go on Teams and Zoom and have meetings. Especially if they're in a creative way. But even if they're doing any job, so as long as you've got maybe some headphones that you can talk to people with, you've got a micro, they can literally be anywhere.
I feel like that myself in my role now. So I've been home based for 5-6 years, I think.
Wow.
But I feel like I could work anywhere, especially through the thick of the pandemic. Even in the last quarter, had a successful quarter and I haven't been out that much. This is probably one of my first partner visits, in fact. And it just shows, do I need to be strapped to my house? Could I be in Portugal, or something like that?
Don't give them ideas.
You can't beat the office environment. Don't take that away.
Yeah.
When I came in today, I was hoping to see the place buzzing, and you definitely got that going on down here. Everybody's friendly. You miss those just...
I think it's getting the balance, because I love getting in the room. I love getting in front of a whiteboard, as you guys know, and sketching stuff out. I think you need a bit of that, but I also agree. I think people can be very productive working at home, working remotely, and kind of bring the best of both together.
So just breaking into this disruptive conversation, just want to tell you a little bit about how Spectrum Digital can help you be disruptive in your sector. So anything to do with finance, be it sales, operations, HR, anything where you've got mundane manual tasks will help you be way more efficient and be way more disruptive than some of your competitors. Now back to the conversation.
Neil, when I say disruption, what comes to mind to you from a business perspective?
The first one that comes to mind for me is Netflix. I think that massively shook up that industry, but again, wasn't an overnight success because it first started just delivering DVDs to the home. And if you read or watch the guy's background, I watched a very short video on how he went about it. He was using data all the time to back up his decisions, and obviously then had to, put money where his mouth is and go for it. But again, been a customer of the likes of Blockbusters and whatnot. I remember...
You're showing your age now.
Yeah, I am. Yeah, I really am. I remember having to go and rent a DVD or whatever, or a video, a cassette, whatever it was before. But yeah, that it was interesting that the technology got to a point that the infrastructure could back up the delivery mechanism, as in smart TVs and iPads and all this type of stuff. So the consumer went to this instant on demand, as opposed to it was a bit of an experience getting in your car, going to the Blockbuster store, I guess, and then picking up whatever the latest movie was, and then obviously buying the secondary sale, buying the popcorn, everything else used to rinse me every time. I used to forget. And there was like an Iceland or something next door at Asda, and I could have just gone there and got it cheaper, but I didn't. Pick and mix and all the rest of it, and 20 quid later and walk out. But now that you can pay it on subscription on a monthly, and I did have that Love Film stroke Netflix era where
it kind of evolved, didn't it? Love Film came in, and that was by postal. Is that right?
It was all post. You pay a subscription and you get maybe 1 or 2 movies a month, and again it was based on. But originally, I remember it not having very good titles. It was all a bit rubbish. So it took a while for them to obviously generate enough money to get the latest releases and the bigger titles.
What, Netflix?
Yeah. And to be fair, Love Film, but the thing for me there is they were using data all the time. They were looking at people's viewing habits. They were seeing how long people were, and then they realised the whole binge watching thing where you could do series. But the key for them, a bit like any technology, owning the intellectual property. So what did they do? They brought out their own movies, their own TV series.
Yeah.
They got the stars on board, and now they're absolutely massive. It's just it's completely taken over.
And how do you see that evolving then? How do you see Netflix? You've already said they've evolved into their own production company already, haven't they? But how do you see that continuing over the next sort of 5-10 years?
I think the irony is I sort of looked at some of the stats, and Disney are actually accelerating very, very quickly. So they're catching them from a subscriber. And I think because Disney have got, they've got the assets there, they've got the characters, they've got the legacy, they've got so much, their subscriber base for the same money per month type scenario. And Netflix obviously was first to market and obviously got that march and got the majority share. But yeah, Disney's coming up behind them pretty quickly. So it's, I'll be intrigued to see how they do pivot, whether they bring out other things. But
they're going to move into sport and other forms of entertainment, aren't they? You're already here now of going away from Netflix, but DAZN and Netflix and Disney and things like that.
Amazon did the sports,
and Amazon, and they're all going to be competing for the Premier League rights and things like that. And
that'll be intriguing.
Where Sky have kind of had it under control. We're looking at disruptors. There's 4 or 5, maybe even half a dozen players that are going to go into that area, and ultimately it's going to be a bit like Amazon for goods, and they're now moving into food and things like that. The likes of DAZN and Netflix, etc., are going to be about all your entertainment needs, be it sport, be it music, be it film, TV programs, all of those. And I'd be lying if I said just for convenience. Now being able to go right. I'm going on holiday in a couple of weeks, so I'm going to order all of it, and I don't have to go anywhere rather than have to go into town. Exactly. And said to my son, right, what do you need when we go away? Oh, right, I'm going to start downloading things. And so that's me entertained, him entertained, which means I'm now free to be entertained myself rather than
it's a good example with Disney, actually, because you got a legacy business there and you've been around for decades, if not longer. So, and they've jumped on the bandwagon, kind of fast follower, I guess, and actually they've modernised their business quite quickly.
Because they obviously had the license model where they were selling the rights to the different films and movies that people could show on their platforms, and then all of a sudden they were thinking, hang on, we could do our own here, and then they obviously invested a hell of a lot in that and went for it. And their collaboration, if you think about, they're very clever in terms of who they collaborate with. So like Alexa, Samsung and iPhones, you buy a new mobile phone, you get Disney for 3 or 4 months or whatever, get people into it, get them liking it, and then obviously the subscription model then kicks in and all that type of stuff. So the product placement's very good. But yeah, and they're all trying to model each other to a certain degree. Lego, again, I think the whole digital transformation piece, they've again taken something that's very traditional in physical building, but then the movies and the interactive games. My son's on his iPad and he's playing his Duplo game and all this type of stuff at the age of 3. So he knows he's got associations with that brand early doors. And the movies are quite comedy, so a lot of it's a bit like Simpsons sometimes, where it goes above the head of the child. And so again, we all grew up with Lego as well, so it's kind of like it's aiming at 2 different audiences at the same time, really, which is clever. But
it's good example of legacy business that's been through that digital transformation and come outside a digital first business, I guess. Ben, are you young kids are they playing with Lego? Were they watching Lego online?
Absolutely. We've been on the Lego train for many, many years. Duplo, all the way through to Lego. We're now into the Super Mario Lego, in fact. My son, who's 7, which is an interesting concept of bringing technology into the hands-on experience of building Lego. So I don't know if you've seen it, but essentially you build your models and you buy different Mario sets and you connect them all up together. And you link the Mario and Luigi via an app, and then you move the character around the buildings you've just created, and you collect coins like you do in the kind of Mario game.
Yeah, in the games.
So it's now bringing app-based technology into the hands-on building experience. Do you know what? We were huge fans. It cost a few £100, right, over Christmas. But I spent probably 10 hours building that with my son. And then he gets repeatable enjoyment from playing it with an old phone that I've got.
Yeah. So you got that convergence of software with physical and hardware,
Exactly.
and bringing the two things together.
And I think as parents, like, we always get a bit worried of, you know, our kids are spending too much time on screens or using apps or playing games or whatever. And I thought this is unique.
Yeah,
Well done to Lego.
that augmented
Bringing it
reality,
back in a respectful way, I thought was very, very clever.
And as well, I quite like the fact that you've got basically two massive brands interchangeable. So you've got Nintendo character using in a Lego world, and again, the very successful top tier. I mean, Nintendo did have to reinvent themselves, didn't they? Because it was very quickly losing out to the likes of PlayStation and whatnot. But they picked their target audience very specifically and made the games and entertainment for a particular. And again, they've kicked on again, haven't they, with the Switch and other bits and pieces.
My lads, after a Switch, we had to set a goal for him to get to purple reading in order to be able to buy him a Switch, and it's actually like forced him to practice and get to that level. But every kid in the school either has or wants a Switch.
Unbelievable.
You know, there's a huge market out there that I think Nintendo is starting to
I've
exploit.
got this to come. You see, mine is too young slightly, but I'm sure it's coming.
It's just round the corner.
It's
I'm
not
going
far
out the other
away.
end now.
Yeah, I'm lucky that I think my daughter's, she's coming up to 7, and she the most she really does is kind of like the iPad, and she goes on maybe YouTube Kids and things like that, which again is an interesting way of consuming information, because we've talked about Netflix and others, but she likes the ability to, I don't know why, but watching other kids talk about stuff, and I don't fully understand it, but to the point where she's gone, I want my own channel. And I went, what? And she's like, I want Bella and Harry's show. And I'll be like, really? So I actually did it for a laugh. I took like, I think my son found an old webcam and he was like, what's this, Daddy? And he was on a tripod and he was like trying to do this, and he was like, hello, YouTubers. And he's like 3. And I was just like, all right. And I'm thinking, I'm gonna see where this goes. So I just turned it on and recorded it. If anything, it could be a funny home movie just for family. But like, again, you see some of them, like this Ryan's World and all that type of
Ryan's
stuff.
Toys.
All he did was toy reviews at the beginning. He's worth a fortune.
18 million, I think, his last generation was.
Wow.
Yeah.
So Oliver's 11, and he's into, well, so we've gone through, you know, Switch, still heavily played, but Minecraft, Fortnite, those sorts of things. And so his world is basically his Switch, his iPad and his phone, and he's consuming different things at the same time. And there's his ones, well, one of the ones that he follows is Dan TDM. You were saying, Ben, he's on, like, he talks unadulterated rubbish. he's just on another level where he's just keep talking to, you know, 7 to 14-year-olds, probably, maybe the odd adult, I guess. Last year it was like $28 million. And he's got tens of millions of followers, and he's talking rubbish.
But if you think,
I'm not getting paid a penny for this, and I talk rubbish all the time.
think about the business model behind that, though. The kid's talking rubbish. He's got loads of people engaged, so he's doing something to get this engagement, and then advertisers and product placement. If they want to be associated,
absolutely.
Because before, I mean, again, it still happens now. If you think about the top brands in the world, they use association. Like Emma Raducanu, she got another brand endorsement by Porsche or something, and they were having a go at her because she's not won that many games since
she won
the US Open, and it's a bit like. But that whole association thing, people are still hardwired to know, like, and trust a brand with a person. If they like that person, they'll generally try and again, that's where all these celebrities get all these endorsements. And you only have to look at Ronaldo and Messi and the others that get paid apps. They get more money probably from their endorsements than they do playing football. But then if we rewind it back to, okay, so we're doing this to create content to get people's engagement. And even like going back to what Graham said, what's the point? Are anybody's going to listen? And you're right. I think coming back to like consistency. So these people on YouTube, they're doing it all the time, over and over. And then it's about, okay, so do they know, like, and trust you? They get a bit of an idea of who you are as a person, and that's what this is about, I guess. People can listen to this to think, do we think? Are they the type of people we'd like to do business with? Mm-hmm. And ultimately, if we position ourselves well and obviously come across, there'll be some people, like anybody, the stats show it's like, I don't know, a third of people will never do business with you, a third of people will love you just because of the way you are, and a third of people are up for grabs and can be sort of enticed or converted as such. And again, it's interesting how all of these worlds are pulled together, because kids are now exposed to ultimately these people on YouTube. That's their business. They're getting paid to do that. And kids are now thinking, well, why do I want to get a job? And we're talking about tomorrow's workplace today. And it's like, it's disrupting, if you like, our education system, because really they're thinking, oh, do I want to be a lawyer or a policeman or a solicitor or whatever? Or I'll just go on YouTube, Dad. And to be fair, I don't know if Ken will mind me saying this, but the owner of this business, his son does it. He commentates on certain things and does it on YouTube and gets paid. And again, it's not much, but again, it's all based on volume, isn't it? So
I was going to say it's a massive theme, isn't it? Like creation at home on scale by the likes of me, you, or probably more our kids actually. Yeah. What is it? What makes people want to watch?
I think it's being a leader, right? So if you're there playing at a game and you're very good at playing that game, naturally somebody who's aspiring to do that wants to watch you. So for example, if you're a customer in a new market, you look at somebody or a case study that's recently adopted that technology, and you want to understand more from them to make it, make yourself understand if it's worthwhile going on that journey.
Yeah.
So I feel like there's a bit of that going on. My lad watches Minecraft videos, and now, in probably 2 years, I've watched him go from not knowing how to work the buttons to building like these crazy maps. And I'm like, there's no way you built that.
Yeah.
Yeah, I did. It took me 2 hours. Like, okay. But I do think it's almost like they're sponges and they're trying to soak up the content knowledge or whatever it is, like we are from watching or listening to a podcast.
Yeah.
Right? We want to try and understand the topic to become more credible in it or something.
I think it's also around the fact that actually when it's in a more informal arena, like four blokes having a chat, or in their case, they're just in their leisure time and someone's in a fun way educating them, they're more likely to take that information in rather than in a classroom environment where you're like, do you know what, I'm switching off now. It's not really how I want to engage. And as, with our kids and their kids evolve how they want to learn, like Oliver, the deputy head in the school assembly asked a question relating to the Ukraine-Russia, situation. Oliver's in the year 7, so he's at the start. He's one of the little ones. Puts his hand up, thinking, "I know the answer, but I'm not sure I should." Deputy head says, "Go on then." Gives the answer, and absolutely right. He went, "Yeah, brilliant, well done." Afterwards, pulled him to one side. "Where did you get that from?" "TikTok, sir." Mm-hmm. And it was all to do with the Russian, the Ukrainian Prime Minister. And it was like 3 things. And I said to him, I haven't even, I heard of the Prime Minister, obviously, because he's on TV all the time. But I'm like, how did you know that? And he was like, well, I was just watching things on TikTok, Dad. And, it's really quite educational. You should do it. And I'm like, all right, maybe I should if you're learning those sorts of things. Yeah. But it's current affairs and leisure, isn't it?
And exactly that. And then it's about how you consume the information. So if you look at the way that the platforms are delivering the content, the likes of TikTok, they're very short videos, but you'll see content creators taking something like this. And again, Bax does this. You spin it off into different ways. So, I mean, YouTube's become using that platform more and more. And again, from a disruption point of view, it's been around a long time. But then now with the different services they offer and business owners clicking on to the fact that if I create a video, a how-to guide or something like that, if I've got a product to sell or a service to sell, and I've created a how-to guide on whatever it is, it gets ranked on websites and things like that. So you Google something, it comes up. You've got a blog post about it, or if I'm trying to solve a problem, I've just asked Google, which most people do. YouTube videos are getting logged really, really sort of high. I mean, literally yesterday, my wife wants some screening, like trees and things for the side of our garden. I know nothing about gardening, nothing about trees. And I was like, what's the best? I just asked it a question. Within about 2 hours, I'd found the answer and I figured out which tree that I wanted and I've ordered something, but I ordered it through a website because this guy did a little how-to guide, and it was like, there was one that was about DIY and then one was a recommendation on which is the best for screening and other bits and things like that. And I wouldn't have even known. I just Googled it and it popped up.
You can basically teach yourself pretty much anything, I think, nowadays.
I think so, yeah.
Just from YouTube and free content available on the internet. So if we take that a step further, then is that going to change education and the industry of L&D and that sort of thing? So are people going to do MBAs in the future? Are they going to spend 2 years doing that, or are they going to just consume micro bits of content as and when they need to? Ben, what do you reckon?
I think there'll be like personal vendettas. So, well, if that's the right word, but people that have a pure passion for something will go down a YouTube track to be able to learn a craft and then take it into their main life. I don't think the curriculum will ever adapt quickly. Well, ever is a bold statement, but won't adapt quickly to the way the world is moving. I think that's a decade plus kind of life cycle away, for sure.
I tend to agree. I did a marketing, not a degree, but a qualification kind of 10 years ago. And I think the world of marketing in 10 years has completely shifted. They didn't talk about doing podcasts and getting content on LinkedIn and YouTube back then. It just wasn't even discussed. And I suspect that course is still available, still live, and still teaching the same content.
It's the same stuff, right? Yeah. And that's the thing.
I think that just on that, I think we touched on it last time, but from what I completely agree with Ben. I think the time we were talking, about how our children are all a similar sort of age range, if you will, and the skills that they're going to leave school with, and the qualifications, and actually the jobs in 10 years' time that are going to be out there, the disparity is going to be huge. And I think unless, like you said, Ben, unless the sort of curriculum for kids going to school changes rapidly, it's going to get wider and wider. And then, employment opportunities, not so much opportunities because they'll be there, but actually being able to take someone in and go, right, just sit down and crack on because you've got that skill, is we could be coming to a bit of a watershed in how that happens, because technology is moving so rapidly. Where do you think the gaps are then in terms of the curriculum, or what they're not learning that they need to be? Well, you're better off starting off with a nil.
I've got a good answer to that.
Go for it. Go on. Help me.
When you look at technology at school, you generally do IT, right? It's the class, and you're doing whatever, learning how to use programs or whatever it might be. But now technology is relevant to each and every subject that you might do, from a mathematics perspective, all the way through to design, right? Using CAD machines and so on and so forth. Science, physics, equations, running data, analytics, all this kind of stuff. I think the gap is introducing technology to each subject in its own right, so then people can then master that craft and go down that avenue if they desire.
That is a great answer to that question. I like
that. That's way better than the one I was going to come up with.
I think that's true with businesses as well, actually. I mean, because you say historically, we work in a digital business, work in digital consultancy. I mean, in the future, every business, whatever they do, is going to be a digital business.
Absolutely, every
window cleaning, they're going to have a booking system which people are going to have to book onto. There's going to be digital elements to pretty much every business that exists.
100%. You mentioned MBAs, and again, normally it's like do a degree or business degree, and then you bolt on the MBA to make it specific. And it used to carry a lot more credence. And like again, if you were going for an interview and it used to carry more weight. And you're right, there is companies out there that I've looked at them myself, and in terms of their content creators, they've gone to super successful businesses and they've interviewed the CEOs or the founders of these businesses, packaged it, try to get life lessons and little ideas, and then selling it as a little 6-week course or 12-week course for people just to, again, look at things from different perspectives. But you've mentioned it to me about education, and now kids are expected to buy an iPad or a laptop or something like that to actually then do the classes, and you see it more and more at university that it's literally every class, they're all open there. And I'll be intrigued to see whether, because I use a couple of different apps for just note taking and things like that can actually transcribe what people are saying and write things up and write my notes up and things like that. So I'll be intrigued how many kids are got that playing in the background and transcribing what's happening. Now you could say that it works 2 ways. One is a written word. When you're writing something down, you generally commit it to memory a bit better. Or if they know that it's the device is transcribing, could they be a bit more present? Or on the flip side, if they're doing something else on their iPhone and not present at all. So it's kind of
good show.
I think the other thing, actually, which what you just said there, what I've noticed, and we've all said it around our children and gaming and stuff like that, is that actually the way so everything's now digital for hands, all Oliver hands, all his homework in digitally, has to turn it in. A lot of it's typing, but then there's our handwritten stuff, because obviously you need to learn the skills of handwriting. Still trying to master it, but anyway, move on. But my point is more, we're teaching them, and they're now interacting, and they're how quick are they at learning those sorts of things? I'm now going to him going, how'd you do that? And he's like, oh, just like this, Dad. And I'm like, okay. But the actual curriculum is still really dated. Yes, there's some fundamentals they need to learn, but they're now this generation are ripe for actually taking them, like you said, Ben, to showing them where technology and so one of the things that you would have thought, and I don't know in secondary sort of curriculum, but all to do with data. Probably that's the time to be introducing it, rather than when they go to university. Get them doing it in
It's all about learning to write code. You write software. Is that part of the curriculum?
Not as part of the curriculum, but outside it is, yeah.
So in my friend works for an education company, or I did do previously, and it's kind of like an online platform which they have access for kids, where they can go into subjects and do elements of coding, simplistic coding, designed in a kid-friendly way in order to be able to get them on that journey. So it is there, but I think it's quite a niche. Trying to really exploit that and make it the norm, I think is the gap that needs to be addressed.
Yeah,
sure.
That surprised me. I thought they would be teaching writing code at a young age nowadays.
Well, I've even looked into trying to follow some type of program for my lad based around Minecraft, to try and help him learn code within Minecraft, to teach him the fundamentals so he can design the $1 million app that we all want, right?
If you think about it, you look at Barclays, they've got that whole digital eagles thing, and it's all about trying to help people. But then why is a bank trying to help with the digital skill sets? And does it from two angles. You've got certain bits where they're trying to encourage kids to learn to code, but then also the older generation that how did they get online? Ultimately, they're bothered about spending money, aren't they? They want the older generation to go online because they've got all the money. They've got the pensions and all the rest of it. They're sat there spending. They'd love them to get them on Amazon or wherever and just use the Barclays card to obviously spend money. And then, like you mentioned there, what if they set up a business and they need a business bank account with the kids, younger kids and all that type of stuff? But there's a traditional bricks and mortar sort of bank that I think, geez, we need to get in early, position ourselves, brand and skill sets.
The reason is probably the first bank you open a bank account with is the bank that you tend to stick with for the rest of your life, so you get them as early as you can.
I can't complain that. That's true.
Well, you've moved, haven't you? But I was when we were talking about it.
A disruptor bank, so we talk about disruptor.
Yeah.
I've moved full on to Monzo. I've had a Monzo account since it opened in 2015.
43 years I've been with my bank.
Wow.
So tell a lie. I have a Nationwide, and I do have a Monzo account.
Yeah.
But we use
the one the wife doesn't know about?
No. In fact, we're both on it.
Oh, okay.
To be able.
That's a joint account then.
Well, yeah. Oh, actually, no. That's another rabbit hole. But let's not go down there. But we use it to try and get a grasp of our expenses around shopping and stuff like that. So it's almost like a utility card. If that's the right way of looking at it.
So describe Monzo to me then, because I know of it, but I've never used it. I'm not accustomed.
So they definitely disrupted the banking industry,
100%.
right? I think the biggest thing from them is the idea of categorizing spend and using the data that every bank has got, but ultimately they've never leveraged. So it will send you smart notifications and say, hey, you've spent £400 on shopping this month, or you can go in and drill down and look at the data and say, God, we've spent £800 on shopping this month. What's going on?
Okay.
Whereas if you don't have that, it just happens, and then you live that lifestyle, and all of a sudden you're shopping at Waitrose buying Cote d'Ivoire steaks every week.
and again, it's business principles. We rely on our finance teams and FDs to keep track of all that spend and whatnot. But in our lifestyle, we earn it, spend it, we spend it. Where's it gone? But so it has that great budgeting tool. But when it first started, it came out and it was a prepaid card. You had to load money on, and I used it. It got me hooked because I went on holiday, and you could have There was no transaction fees.
Okay, yeah.
So I used it, so uploaded all my holiday money on it, and then just shoot, because it was backed by MasterCard, I think, or one of the two. And then, literally just use it as a spend management tool. But then as it's grown arms and legs, and it had that, the most impressive thing for me about the experience of that bank was its onboarding process.
Yeah.
Unbelievably
Simple.
easy and simple. And its technology just worked. And people expect that nowadays. It had an app, and you filled in some basic information, you authenticated, and it literally sent you an email. As soon as you clicked the email to authenticate, that was it, you were in. I was like, bloody hell, that was easy.
Yeah.
As opposed to HSBC was ridiculously painful for a credit card that I got. Oh my word, I'll never use them again. It was horrendous.
I think that's a good example where legacy businesses have struggled to catch up in banking.
And that's
because of the amount of paperwork
hugely.
that people have to fill in, and the security checks have to go through. And I mean, it sounds like Monzo have
And there's others.
revolutionised that.
So did you? Sorry, just on that. So did you open Monzo independently, or did you close your other one down? And did they close it for you and transfer everything across?
I left I had my Monzo probably running in the background. Didn't really use it up until probably 18 months ago, 2 years ago. And they then kept us updated and said, right, we've got this accreditation and all the rest of it, FCA approved, and it became a personal account, and you could have it. And then they encouraged you with technology to pay in your salary. One of the benefits was you got paid a day earlier. So with banks, you're paying the money, sat there, processing, buffering, it's in the ether, where is it? No idea. They had the technology to allow you to use that money a day sooner. Well, all right. So, and I give it a try, and it worked. So I made the decision, like I say, 18 months ago, 24 months ago, to get my salary paid into it. And then, like Ben sort of said there, they allow you to put it into different pots and budget it. So I've got a holiday pot, I've got a birthday pot, and you can siphon off money, and then you can put into like bills. So very quickly, but then it proactively looks at all your direct debits and tells you, right, based on all these direct debits, you need to budget this amount. All right. So then move it across, and then it ultimately leaves me with leisure disposable income pot, which disappears very quickly. but yeah, but that's just utilising basic technology, where I found the others, and you'll see with banking, they try and buy your loyalty to a certain degree. That they don't reward it very well, but they'll say, oh, come to us and we'll give you 125 quid if you set up a new bank account, and if you pay in 3 direct debits and blah, blah, X amount. And obviously credit cards do the same. But again, they're wanting throughput, they're wanting volume, they're making small margins, and obviously then you get into fractional lending side of things and other bits and pieces. But it's about user experience with technology. You need to make it as easy and simple to do business with you as possible, because we've got so much choice. We can buy from anywhere on a mobile phone. We don't have to get in our car and drive anywhere anymore. And our attention is like that. If someone messes up, and I've done it before, I've gone to add something to a cart and I've gone to buy something. If they make that difficult, I'm off. I've just deleted it.
I've done that a few times.
So just breaking into the conversation again, really, it's a request really, just to see if you can help us grow the podcast. Obviously, you can watch us on YouTube, but if you can also follow us on Spotify or iTunes, and more, topically, Amazon. We'd really appreciate your likes and your follows. We're trying to grow the pod, trying to deliver as much informative content as we can. And with that, we can deliver more value to you. Just on the Monzo piece then, as they're a disruptor, have you, because you're up with all sorts of stats, have you looked into what sort of share of the banking industry that they've sort of won over the last X period of time?
It's small, but it's growing. That's the difference. And the key bit that they push out and they back it up is customer care. On all of the ratings, there's Metro Bank and there's Revolut, and I think there's Sterling and a few others. But it's interesting. It's the disruptors that have put all their time and attention into the customer care. So if I have an issue, I go on the app, I go on the chat, open it. I'm through to an advisor very, very quickly. I can ask a question. People get stressed out about money. Do you know what I mean? If there's like an amount's moved or not there where it's supposed to be, you're thinking, geez, what's that? And you want to be on it and you want that reassurance very quickly. They're winning all those charts. That's why there's a big shift and they're growing. And ultimately, they're doing it the right way, I guess.
You might become a salesman for them. I'm liking the sound of it. 43 years with one bank.
Those businesses have had the benefit of having no legacy systems or processes and they can just start blank sheet of paper. Let's map out what the ideal customer journey looks like and let's build that. And that's a lot easier to do than taking a legacy business and trying to mould it into something.
I bet they've had to iterate that. I bet they've had an idea. Yeah. And like I said, they started as a prepaid charge catch, so they had one. But what they did do very quickly and again, this is great for any new product or service or business, they engage with their customers, the early adopters, and ask them feedback. So you get the feedback. What features do you want? What would help you in your life? Budgeting tool, right? We'll make a widget that can do that. What else do you want? And then now, I mean, I've gone from their free account to their basics account. Now I'm on their platinum account. I've worked my way up just for the added benefits.
You're a salesman's dream.
Do you know why? So again,
how much does that cost you then?
£15 a month.
It's not bad. Do you get any insurance?
What do you get for that?
I get free travel, worldwide family travel insurance. So I'm going on holiday.
For £15 a month?
Exactly.
But where do I sign?
Yeah, exactly. I get mobile phone insurance and gadget protection, and I get
you need that.
Other bits and pieces. That again, when I added it all up individually, I'm thinking, well, hang on, it'll cost me more if I went and as I'm going on holiday. So I'm thinking, well, to take the full family away, the cost of the insurance was probably more than what a year's worth was going to be anyway. So I was a bit like, sorry, I'll just do this, and it was easy. Now again, if you remember the mis-selling stuff that the old banks got.
PPI.
Yeah, they got in trouble with a lot of that because they were trying to sell stuff that people didn't need. They didn't have a car and they didn't have mobile. Back then, they were charging you for premium accounts that people didn't need. But we forget that these companies are still there to make money out of it.
It's interesting how the disruption, we look at the things, a lot of the disruption is in sort of legacy sort of areas. So money, finance, all right, it's quite basic. Entertainment.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Food or buying, purchasing things with Amazon and the like, they've obviously the people at the top end that have been successful in being disruptors have proper targeted the area that they wanted to go. Do you know what? All the sort of historical big companies in this sector are going to, like you said, Steve, are going to take forever and a day, going to be like a super tanker trying to turn it around to being able to offer. Whereas though if we've got a blank piece of paper, probably the wrong analogy in technology, but if we got a
blank whiteboard.
Yeah, exactly.
Smart screen.
We got a blank smart screen.
We can.
How are we going to do it? What's best?
So what's yours then? So what's your kind of disruptor of choice that you admire putting on the spot?
Yeah, I hate that. I'd probably go as far to say Amazon, if I'm allowed to use Amazon.
You are allowed to explain that then.
Why? Simply because I couldn't tell you the last time I went into a shopping centre. I couldn't tell you, well, to be fair, I couldn't tell you the last time I went into a shop, but more 15, 20 years ago, probably 15 years ago, I would have had to have gone into PC World or Curry's or wherever to get something. Now, my first instinct is Amazon. Right, I want to look at tech, so I'll look at tech. Because we live in the age of we want it immediate, right, I want Prime because I want it tomorrow. Because even at my age, I'm still an excited little schoolboy that there's a package coming tomorrow and I can open it and it's going to be, whiz bang. Then it comes to, just incidentals, things that, I don't know, not DIY as in, lumps of wood, but, I don't know.
Anything.
Exactly. And just having that, do you know what? Partly because of just how I'm wired, it's like, while I remember, I'll just go onto Amazon and I'll sort it. And then I know, I'll get a phone call from, my mum's like, a pensioner. It'll be like, son, I need you to do this. All right, no worries. Go straight on Amazon, order, get it sent to her, pop round the next day, jobs are good and it's there.
I agree. Yeah.
And Amazon have made all our lives so much easier. In one sense, my father-in-law owns, clothing shops. It's affected, they're quite a traditional sort of menswear shop. So it's affected trade, undoubtedly. the advantage they have is probably, I say an advantage, predominantly the demographic is of the older generation. So it's probably falling out of the funnel. It's not really topping up, but.
God, that was my next question, actually. So if you're a retailer, not necessarily of men's suits, but if you're a retailer, you've got a formidable competitor in Amazon, what are you doing?
I've through experience, so a lot of the work that I'm doing at the moment is with like stockists and distributors and wholesaler of products. And an interesting part of their supply chain is eBay and Amazon. So normally they'd set up an account with manufacturer or whoever supplier. They've got a catalogue and they resell these, and whether they resell by trade counters or e-commerce or whatever, more and more now are becoming external procurement arms of these bigger businesses where it's easier to ring ABC company and say, can you buy me all these things that I normally buy from you? But I also need these ad hoc purchases as well. It's easier for them to do it through them as opposed to going to search the supplier, getting them on the approved supplier list, going through all the red tape and stuff. They can just buy it from one vendor that's already there. The account's set up in finance. They know they've got budget. And the interesting thing, they're all using like credit cards and debit cards and other bits and pieces. A decent volume, like 50, 60, 70 grand, 100 grand a month throughput through Amazon.
So you're saying Amazon is a supplier to your customers?
Supplier, yeah. And it's because of the speed. They can get it delivered next day and then they can deliver it to their end customer. Or just get it delivered direct and things like that. And it's like, wow.
Go on, Ben.
I was going to say, I think it's called Amazon FBA.
Yeah.
So I think the headline is you have to ride the wave with them, right? You aren't going to beat these multi-billion-pound companies. You've got to work with them and maximize your revenue streams working with them. And that's why they designed this FBA thing. Forgive me if it's the wrong thing, but that's it. Yeah. So, you ship all of your stock to their warehouse. They do all the leg and lump work for you. Yeah, they take a pretty heavy slice of margin, but guess what? Your ultimate revenue is going to really drive up. I think that's the only way
as a manufacturer, but if you're a distributor, a retailer, if your model is to buy and ship boxes, where's your part in the supply chain if Amazon are doing most of that?
Well, the thing is, so I've got a customer and they get something like 2,000 to 3,000 orders a day via Amazon or eBay. And basically Amazon or eBay are their, shop front, if you like. Mm-hmm. And then the order comes to them and then they still distribute it. They fulfill it. It's not all going out of Amazon, but they're just giving them that wider platform. And when the pandemic hit, they were normally they are traditionally a business where people rock up in their white vans or in their cars to buy something. Pandemic hits, what we're going to do because the business is going to fall, and they very quickly went, let's just go onto these platforms. And they basically, I think they said in the first half, they were getting something like, 150 orders a day, and now we're looking at 2,000 to 3,000 a day, and it's growing, and they're still getting people coming back through because we're all released to go. So they've utilised. So rather than seeing it as competition, they've gone, as you rightly say, Ben, it's like, actually, we're never going to beat them. How can we utilise them to enhance our business?
Are they a manufacturer though, or a distributor?
Distributor.
And Amazon, ironically, that's their business model now. So that if you actually look at how they generate their money, they've got the AWS systems, they've got all their back office systems that you can leverage. So you can use their platform because they've got some amazing systems. They've got obviously all the money. They've got the best developers, all that type of stuff. So you can use their platform or their growth on their Fulfilled by Amazon. And they actually want manufacturers and distributors, wholesalers to use their platform for business, for B2C, B2B. And then, like you say, they take a small margin. Some people use their own warehouses. Some people use Amazon warehouses. That's how they're growing. And okay, Amazon might make their own products and sell stuff, but they're actually leveraging their infrastructure that they've set up and then letting other people use that. But the interesting thing I was going to ask you was about that prime thing. So how long did you have a free Amazon account before you upgraded to Prime? That's because
I'm a little bit tight, Neil, and I sort of resented paying whatever it was to get it the next day. Per interesting, actually, I might be contradicting myself here. Per delivery, it was like my wife would say, right, we need that tomorrow because Oliver's got a birthday party type scenario and lastminute.com type thing. Yeah. And then what was it, $3.95 to get it the next day, and then you add it up. And it was when they suddenly went, do you know what? If you sign up for Amazon Prime, you get all the entertainment.
Exactly that.
I was like,
what,
for 70, 80 quid a year?
Yeah.
I can get all my parcels whenever I want them, and I get all these TV things. Let me think about that shortly. Bosh, signed up.
And the stats on that, once you've gone from and it's such a mental switch. If you're on a free account, you're not bothered. But because you've made a commitment to pay that 80 quid, I'll just check Amazon first. It's a mental switch because you're thinking, I want value for money now. And all the other bits are just, again, they're using their service to store your photos. They're delivering you some movies and content on that again, used to be a bit rubbish. Now it's decent. And you mentioned sport and other things. So now they've created this ecosystem very similar to how Apple have, where you can have loads of things in there. But those mental triggers, every business can learn from that. Like, how can you introduce a freemium product or service or something of value and then take people on that journey and upgrade them and add more value and charge more money?
And it's so clever, going back to where we started a little bit from the data side of things with Netflix. It's like, other people, when looking at this, or viewed this, bought this, and this. And you're like, oh yeah, I need a screen protector from a new iPad and I need, the Apple Pencil. And it's like, so suddenly you're adding 50, 60 quid without even intending to, because they've given, and just using that data to go, we've got all these different people buying these things. And, actually when they bought that, they also thought, well, I need this. Why don't you think about it? And you look, and then you're in that mode, you're trigger happy. And it's like, add to basket, fast, whatever it is, straight to, pay straight away. And
it's buying out one button. You can literally just do it. And I don't have to. So hang on, you're telling me you're going to take away all those steps, setting up an account, faffing about. It's easy to go to Amazon and buy it. And the irony is, they know for a fact you can charge a little bit more. It will be cheaper out there, but it's that people will pay for the convenience. It's like that
100%
versus
banking.
Whatever. Yeah. It's always been the same. But
the other thing is the reviewing. Sorry.
Yeah, of course. That's social.
Just because you can't go in and touch it, feel it, and ask someone's advice. Having the ability to look, so the first thing my wife does, she just goes, I just want 4.5 or 5 stars reviews and then I don't want, then once you do that, she immediately mentally filters to, it's got to have like 1,000 or more 4.5, 5 stars to go, all right. So it's not just a few people that think it's good. It's a lot of people. So we haven't had
social proof.
Yeah. Interesting though. Do you only go off those stats or do you actually go down into the review? Because I go into a review.
I read the reviews.
Yeah, because I look at like the 3 stars and I try and look for authenticity. I'm like, what are they really saying? Is this just a moaner, right? Or is there actually a genuine kind of like issue with this product or service or whatever? But it's interesting, isn't it? How you can get sold by data.
Yeah.
Or you're compelled by stories.
But those reviews have just become commonplace. It doesn't matter whether you're booking a holiday, whether you're trying to find a builder, whether you want to, like say, buy something off Amazon or go into a restaurant or something like that. You go to TripAdvisor or things like that.
It's part of buying process now, isn't it? You just check it.
And the bad thing is, so as much as I've just said, I rely on reviews, I rarely review.
Yes. Yeah, it's true. So then it becomes about consumer versus creator. So are we giving back by creating and giving people, and a lot of people, goes back to what other people, they think, did they really care what I think? Well, yeah, people do. Like, if there's en masse as a collective.
Let's come back to that though, because...
Let's not.
No. But how active are they in asking for the review? Because if I'm like Carbis Hotel,
make it easy,
I went to Carbis Hotel, they sent me a nice email and said, can you fill out the simple form? It was lighthearted, it was felt personal, so I did it. If you're not contacting me and chasing me to do a task for you, I probably am not going to do it.
It's got to be 2 or 3 clicks. I'm not interested.
You've got to make it simple. And everything that we've talked about today is simplicity, how we want to engage with simple organizations. And we as a global outfit see that in our partners, right?
Yeah.
They all want a simple life or a simple way of working together, almost pre-built content, campaigns, whatever it is. So it can make your life simpler. It can generate more activity. It can create more engagement. And that's where I think we're going. How simple it'll get, I don't know.
Yeah.
The next big one for me is the healthcare sector. That's just absolutely wide open for disruption. I know a couple of people that are trying to make moves in that market. And again, it's so disjointed. It takes so long. I mean, my daughter's been ill this week and just getting through to someone, speaking. I mean, okay, yes, you've got 111 and things like that. You can speak to your local GPs and get appointments, but it just takes forever. And then it's about how do you get information between different providers and make sure that, because you have to repeat yourself 3, 4, 5 different times if you're ill and you've got multiple things wrong with you. Because ultimately, if you think about the way that we've created medical, they become specialists. You've got ear specialists, nose, eyes. I mean, everybody's a specialist in a specific part. And yes, we have a GP that is a generalist in all this type of stuff. But as a customer, I want my whole body. I don't want if my ankle's so wrong with my ankle, but then you don't fix this part of me and it's all linked together. And again, people can get lost in that sort of world. And so that whole collaboration piece about putting it all on one platform. And I've got a friend of mine that's going at it from a corporate perspective and using apps and things like that, where you can get GP appointments, you can speak to your physio, you can speak to a mental health professional, all these different bits where it's all collaborative and it's affordable and you can deliver it. Now technology, and the biggest thing for me, the whole shift with the pandemic, is getting people used to using technology to communicate. It had to be, it forced it. Grandparents, if they couldn't see the grandkids, you've got them on video calls and things
Skype
like that.
and Zoom.
And then all of a sudden the people that say, oh, I don't like that, or I can't do that. You didn't have a can't do that, you made it happen. And then once you made it happen, you realise how easy it is. All right, well, that was all right, wasn't it?
It'd be interesting to see, because we did a lot of doctor's appointments over the phone, over Teams, or whatever during the pandemic. It'd be interesting to see what happens. I suspect, and probably know actually, people are reverting back to.
Well, you say that. Only last night I was looking at getting the hay fever jab, because I get slammed every year and I've never done anything about it. I saw somebody post on social media a place where I could get it done, and I went on and they were charging £49 for a video consultation.
Oh, really?
Right. Wow. So they've obviously seen it as a way of, it's a private surgery of mine, but they've seen it a way of capitalising on virtual appointments. I thought, didn't actually book it because I thought you'd try to swindle me. I just want to pay for the jab. I don't need a consultation.
But I think, going back to what you were saying, Neil, for me, the disruption in the health sector is I wouldn't, the robots are coming and all that sort of thing. I would be happy now, and potentially in 3, 4, 5 years' time, I could see it happening, where we go through the chat bots and using the AI bots to kind of what's the word I'm looking for? Sort of filter out all the because when you go to a doctor, they will ask all the great open questions, or how do you feel about this? Whatever. Narrow it down and go, right, your issues in this sort of specialism, let's just say, and you get to see a doctor tomorrow because they can do it much quicker. Yeah. Because one of the things that I'm quite fortunate in my village, our doctor, I can see him the next day, just go and queue. But the number of people that I talk to, from the south where I come from and up here, where it's like, I can't see a doctor for 10 days. And it's like, and I feel like I'm dying.
They just don't bother. They think, I'll just muddle through. Right. And then ultimately what happens is, until something's seriously wrong, and then we're still in a very much a world with healthcare that's reactive and responsive, and we're dealing with all the sick people. They want us to be as healthy as possible.
It's the preventative
bit, or catching things sooner. So they obviously tell you to go for these diagnosis and checks and bits and pieces. But the tech that I see now with the whole machine learning, AI, and all that type of stuff is phenomenal. What they can do in terms of, you go have a test and it can analyze all this data and diagnose stuff faster than these specialists that have got 20 years experience with stuff based on data, and it's looking for little genomes and little defects in
He
your
knows
DNA.
so much rubbish, doesn't he?
Yeah.
But Neil, let
I'm
me
not
ask,
all
You
epigenetics.
need to get out.
let me ask you this
I'm a
question.
freak and I just like my health stuff, but go on.
I'm intrigued to know what do you think the most important part of healthcare is? And I know that's a broad subject, but is it the experience, the access, the patient care, the medicines, the technology that drives it all? Which part do you think is lacking or is most critical?
The bit for me that's lacking is that gap between the preventive bit. I think the NHS in this country are amazing at the reactive stuff, A&E, ambulances. If your leg's hanging off or if you've had a heart attack or all that type of stuff, we're very, very good at getting stuff done and getting people back on their recovery path. The bit before that, if you're all right, if you've got something maybe mildly wrong with you that you're not dying, just see you later, crack on. And I think, but there's loads of stuff now that with technology.
Don't die quietly.
Yeah, with technology, you can do a lot of precursors. So based on your DNA, you can see what you're predisposed to. So I've done one of those DNA tests and I know what ailments I'm predisposed to, like type 2 diabetes and celiac disease. So every other precursors for heart disease, all the others. So for me, it helps me narrow in very quickly. All right, I don't need to worry about these other things. I just need to figure out what do I need to do in my lifestyle that's going to stop me getting these two things. And I have changed. And then you go to things like wearable tech. And you can even get smart sensors now for measuring your blood sugar levels and things like that. And they're saying now for monitoring, so say, for example, diabetes that causes loads of other issues. If someone just had a monitor put on them, it's then linked to the smartwatch. The data was sent all the time, tracking real time to their G. They can have the data, they can see. Can even then monitor, right, okay, helping people make better choices. Hey, look, on this system, you ate that and it caused this issue with your blood sugar levels. Don't eat that. It's as simple as that. But this ignorance is blind. Like, they can just kind of like, I remember years and years ago, I had this one lady, she had a list of ailments, as long as you like. And when I was in that fitness industry, came years ago, she came to me and she sort of sat down and she said, I can't eat this, I can't eat that. I've had my stomach operated on. What I do is I just blend Mars bars. Big pardon? Well, I like them, so I just blend them. What? So I had calorie intake. And then she said, and there's no word of a lie, she said, when I drink Coca-Cola, go a bit dizzy. Really? You're insulin dependent. You can't have that. And she's like, well, what I do is I just lay down. What? And she's like, well, I know I'm going to pass out. What? So she had 40 cans of cola in one day. No word of a lie. She put herself nearly in a diabetic coma. And then, now we're talking more.
40 in a day?
Yeah. This is now, we're talking about individuals taking responsibility, because there's a whole big thing around responsibility of healthcare. Is it the government's responsibility to look after us, or is it the actual individual? And then we have the whole case of we pay the taxpayer a load of money and blah, blah. And then there's certain people like this particular lady. She didn't take control of her own health. She was blaming the doctor. She was blaming the nutrition, trying to blame me. I was like, hang on, when you just met her? And I was supposed to write her a program that was going to help lose weight. And then a month later, when she hasn't done the program, this program didn't work. You've not been to the gym. I've not seen you since. If there was cheaper technology availability that they could catch it sooner, give them the right advice, give them whatever, to just slightly steer them onto a better path, then there's.
I mean, one of the themes that's come out today, I think, with disruption is data and the use of data. And the companies that have done disruption really well have had data at their core, really, the likes of Netflix and Amazon 100%. And in healthcare, in terms of using data to preempt medical conditions instead of kind of react to it.
You mentioned there, so we've been really successful across healthcare as a business. And I was kind of trying to lead you down a path there, Neil, but what you were I thought you were alluding to was almost like patient care.
Yeah, 100%.
So the ability to get patient care right. We've seen that there can be quite a lot of errors within healthcare due to the nature of the way they work in terms of processes being manual, physical documents, and so on and so forth. And 95% of those errors, you could get away with. Yeah, it's pain in the backside and it takes longer, you're triplicating stuff. But the 5%, that's life critical. Yeah. And that's essentially when big problems can happen. So ensuring that your data is validated appropriately by the person who's been in contact with that patient or whatever it is, making sure that you've got the right medication to the individual, is something that's paramount, right? Because we all care about being and living.
Thank you to Ben for joining us. It's been great to get your input into today.
Thanks, guys.
And thanks to John and Neil for your input as well. Until next time.
All right.
Speak soon.
Thanks.
Thank you.